All right, let's move on to talk about jokes. A joke can be defined as a piece of linguistic or visual material containing a blend of conceptual and rhetorical elements, becoming an exchangeable unit of culture. So it doesn't necessarily have to be verbally recounted. It doesn't necessarily have to be linguistic. It could also be visual in the sense of a meme, just an image with some text shared online. It could still be considered a joke and thus an exchangeable unit of culture. And the conceptual and rhetorical elements pertain to the content and the form respectively. So the conceptual element is the content, the idea of the joke, the behind the joke, the meaning behind it. And then the rhetorical side of the joke is how it's told, the delivery, the style, which can greatly affect the humor in the joke. So that leads to the question, can you have a joke that's pure rhetoric and no concept? Can you have the form of a joke, all the standard format of a joke, the delivery, without the actual content of that joke? So that all the elements are there except for the actual heart of the joke. Try this on for size. What do you get when you cross a scoodle with a boodle? A skaboodle! So even though the words are meaningless, like scoodle, boodle, skaboodle, there's no concept there. There's no meaning there. Everything surrounding it, the format of a joke, what you get when you cross, that automatically clues you in and cues you in to knowing that this is a joke. And the delivery and the laugh track all inform you when to laugh. They all surround that joke to indicate that this is a joke and primes the audience to react to it as such. Are these rhetorical elements enough? Are they sufficient to indicate funniness without any conceptual element tied to it? Or is it all for nothing without the actual meaning of the words being delivered? And at the same time, can you have a joke that's all concept and no rhetoric? It's equally difficult to have just meaning without all this other dressing surrounding the meaning. So try this Stephen Wright joke on for size.
I think it's wrong that only one company makes the game Monopoly.
Comedians like Stephen Wright and Mitch Hedberg convey a lot of meaning with few words and no energy. Usually their punchlines are so clever and economical in terms of using as few words as possible that there's a delayed reaction as audience members gradually get it. And in those cases, their lack of rhetoric is their rhetoric. The lack of style is their style. It's that monotone style of delivery that works well for the content of their specific jokes. Like those jokes wouldn't work as well with enthusiastic delivery. There needs to be some sort of tacit social contract between the sender and recipient of a joke, some agreement about the social world in which we find ourselves as the implicit background to that joke. So the sender and the recipient need to share similar frames of reference. If the parties involved don't share similar meanings, experiences, customs, and habitus, then the joke may not make sense to the receiver, and it certainly won't be interpreted as humorous. There has to be some sort of pre-existing consensus or implicit shared understanding as to what constitutes joking and what's considered to be a joke, because this will vary depending on wider cultural context, but also the specific context surrounding the exchange of any joke and its participants, so that the practice of joke telling is always embedded in a shared social world with shared meanings and habitus. That's a prerequisite for a successful joke to be communicated to the listener. And if your habitus, if your ways of thinking and doing things aren't already in line with the rest of your cultural or subcultural grouping, then your attempts at humor could come off as crass or inappropriate or distasteful or just plain not funny. And this can explain why some jokes, even though conceptually they may be sound or linguistically they may be delivered properly, they could not be received well. They could be groan-inducing or be interpreted as cheesy or in poor taste. So that the biggest prerequisite is for both the sender and receiver of the joke to be on the same page in terms of their shared meanings and values and habitus. And jokes can be seen as an anti-rite, as an anti-ritual, in the sense that a rite is a symbolic act that derives its meaning from a cluster of socially legitimated symbols, such as a graduation or a wedding or a funeral. Each of them has a distinct set of symbols. So the grad gown and cap, and walking across the stage and